Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Headwaters Science Institute information session for our research experience. I'm Meg Seifert, and I'm the Executive Director at Headwaters, and I'm super excited to be able to share with you guys a little bit about the research experience. This is something that we started in 2020 to be able to accommodate students doing larger projects in during COVID, and it was so successful that we decided to go ahead and continue with it. It's a really unique experience for students, and we're excited for them to have that. So I'm gonna just pause for a minute and share my PowerPoint so that I can answer hopefully any potential questions that people have. All right. Let's see. Don't know. Awesome. So this is a slideshow about the research experience, and this is a 12-week class that's designed to help students learn the process of research. So the quick agenda tonight is to give you an introduction about the program objectives and outline. I'll talk about some projects and answer any potential questions that people have. So the program objectives, this program is designed around the Headwaters process called student-driven research. And the importance of student-driven research is that students should be able to improve and push their own boundaries. We really want this to be done by the students. So students pick their own projects, and we're trying to foster their own curiosity. And so this can be something that's difficult to do, right? Taking kind of big ideas like I'm really interested in climate change, or I'm super passionate about animal rights, or things like that, and trying to help them narrow it down to something that is possible and that they can do. We want them to connect with that process of science. So how do you go from an idea to actually developing a project, executing that project, and presenting it? And so this is really something that you would never do in a typical science class, or even an internship or lab type program, right? Where in science, you're learning often about things that have already been done, or you're doing labs that you see the process, you're learning skills, right, in how to do that, or working in a lab or internship program. There's a lot of great skills you can learn, but typically we're not working with that, like all the pieces of the process of science. Why? How do we ask that question? How do we get here? What are we building off of? And so with this, we're also hoping for students to build problem solving skills. And so that's really the idea, is to give them an extended period of time to do this and see, do I like science? Is science something, this process that I like? Or did I just like memorizing things in the classroom or executing things that are already done? That's okay. They may be a great lab tech, or maybe they want to run a science lab because they really want to interact with those things. And it's helpful to know. It's also helpful to get through college classes if you know what you want on the other side, or you like something. So there's a lot to be learned, and there's a lot of value in that. In addition, we hope that they're learning professional skills that they can bring to college and careers and beyond. Learning to communicate with scientists or their professors, right? What does professional communication look like? That is something that high school students don't have the opportunity to do. And each week, they meet with their mentor, and their mentor comes in expecting, these are professional scientists, to help them learn how to do that. They learn how to schedule their time, right? This is a long project. But they also need to learn to schedule and show up to meetings or class time that is outside of their regular school day. How do I balance that with maybe other extracurriculars like sports or another program or a summer class or a job? And it's possible, um, but those aren't things that we often think about as adults, right? We have to do them all the time, but it takes a long time to learn it, and you'll be more successful in college and beyond if you know how to do those things and we create a safe environment for them to do it. Yes, they pick a long-term project. How do you break it down and do all of the parts so that it's doable and achievable? And we really have a lot of um, points along the way where things are due so that you're not just doing it all at the end, to help them with that. They make a professional presentation. What does a professional science presentation or any professional presentation look like? We record that. That is something that they can include in a college resume, an application to another internship or program. And they also get experience with scientific writing, and a lot of students get published. Anyone who finishes their manuscript and does their edits, we will publish them in the Headwaters Journal. There are opportunities, again, this is student driven, for those students to go ahead and push beyond. We've had students that have done such big work that they have been invited to speak at scientific conferences with adult scientists and professors. So again, it's really what they want, but for everyone to push their boundaries. There's no final project that looks one way. It's really about self improvement, and we're there with our mentors to help in all of those ways. So everyone will get the basics of scientific writing. How do you do that? What does it look like? How do you cite? How do you find scientific papers and cite them? So those are all great professional skills, regardless of whether you're going into science or not. So, how do we do all this in a summer? So, this is the program outline. We have about 12 classes. We tell students that it's about 5 to 8 hours of work per week. And so, this breaks down to a weekly class, typically 1 hour. At the first couple weeks, when we're really trying to get those projects up and going, we have 2 classes. And those are group classes. They're done in Google Meet, sections of no more than 12 students in a cohort. So even though you're in a class situation, they're really small. We have breakout rooms. You can work with other students to share ideas, learn what they're doing. Then, in addition, they work with their professional science mentor. Those meetings vary across the project. We say 1 to 2 hours per week. It doesn't mean that they will meet for 1 to 2 hours at a time. Those may be broken down into short things, like they need to learn how to use some of their equipment, and they may have a 15-minute FaceTime while they're in the field looking at how they're going to do the things. Most of these are digital. However, depending on your location and the mentor match, and if it's important, we do have opportunities for in-person scientists that definitely can work. We do not have opportunities in labs. We don't have any kind of standing labs that students are invited into because the work there is often so expensive that they can't kind of push in that way. But we can talk about that a little more in the end when we talk about questions. And then independent work. So there is independent work for sure. And this usually amounts to about 3 to 5 hours a week, and it just depends. But again, the science mentor in the class will really set you up for that. If it's writing your introduction, you will probably have outlined it first with your scientist, and you're going back and filling out the details and finishing that writing. Or you'll have found some papers with your mentor, and then you'll go back and read those on your own. So it varies week to week, but they need to be independent. They need to be able to have time to do that work. Not everything is done in class. Collect data, for example. And so the research project, we really break this down into doable chunks. And so each week there's an assignment, and you work on that, and it's part of the project, and you get it done. And then the capstone is we end with a presentation and publication. And so everyone can present, and that gets recorded. And then the publication, if you everyone should be able to complete their manuscript. There's no reason not to if you put the effort in, and that will be presented in the Headwaters Journal. And then, like I said, there's opportunity. The Journal of Emerging Investigators is for kind of high school to college students who are interested in doing research and publishing, as all the way up to full scientific papers. So topics, what is really manageable? What can students study? We try to make it feel like the world is your oyster, but it also has to be manageable. So environmental topics, my advice is keep it simple, right? Climate change is awesome. It's a good thing to study, but even scientists studying it aren't looking at everything at once. Science builds on itself. It's okay to do a smaller project. Or looking at so looking at relationships between variables, or comparing averages, and relating it to the bigger picture, like climate change or humanics. So for example, how does stream salinity affect biodiversity? That's a project that a student did. And they were looking at, with climate change, right, and the ocean rising and the ocean water coming into the stream, how is that stream salinity going to affect biodiversity, maybe in the plants? And so they can measure the stream salinity, and they can look at the biodiversity of whether it's the plants or the insects or something around. Another great project I can think of that was actually done with less field work but environmentally related is the presence of vegetation in relationship to slope. So this is something you could go out and measure, but there are so many amazing maps and things that you can use. So like we've had students do GIS work and lay things over top on different maps to understand that. So you can use things like Google Earth to see that presence of vegetation, and then look at the slope. There's ways to calculate that through GIS maps. It is also something that you could literally go out and measure the slope you're on and look at the presence or percent of vegetation. So that's a project that could be done either way. These are not ones that we're forcing anyone into. I'm just trying to give a sense of what might be manageable, what's doable, what past students have done. All of our past journals are online. I would recommend any student to look and see what's been done. Again, not to copy it, but to potentially build off of it or to gain ideas. Data repositories. These are great for big topics or hard to collect data. They're really good for somebody who loves statistics, already has some skills in statistics, and has some programming skills. If you do a simpler project with less data management, another advantage is we are going to assume coming into this class that most people have no background in statistics. We're going to start from there and help you. Students that already have those, we allow them to extend further using something like R and programming to look at that. And so here there's a student who used like a 50-year data set to look at the impact of timing and magnitude of the El Nino Southern Oscillation. Basically, the PDSI is like drought levels on the local temperature in the Bay Area. And so again, there was really good manageable data sets. He had skills in statistics and programming already, and that topic was really manageable. So the topics that are manageable also depend on your interests and your skills. I tell students all the time, things like, think about what you're going to be doing for this period of time, right? This is your summer, or this is your semester. So think about how you want to spend that time. Do you want to spend it outside? Would you rather be behind a computer? If you don't like to get your hands dirty, choosing a project with soil, right, is probably not a good project to choose. Or something like, if you don't like to get wet, choosing a project like the salinity one, where you probably are going to have to get in some streams, may not be a good project for you. So think about not just a topic that you're interested in, but how you're going to spend your time. And so social science projects definitely are great. And I think a lot of students think they're going to be really easy. The problem is you have to build a whole survey and make edits on it and get feedback and stuff. And then you have to field that survey, give enough people enough time to take that survey, and then get all your data back and then analyze it. So it is definitely possible, but it is something that I tell all students. If that is something you're interested in, reach out to us before the class starts. We can get you going on that. And then no medical topics. We can't ask people things. There's a lot of human ethics, and it's hard to work with humans. Something like the effects of dance on mood, right? You could go to dance studios and get people to sign a waiver agreeing to this, and then they might just fill out a few simple questions about how they are feeling after they're dancing. You're still working with humans, but it's anonymous, and it's possible to get that kind of waiver. Medical things, asking about medical conditions, not as easy and probably not likely unless you already have a connection. And then lastly, lab projects. As I mentioned before, we don't have access to any labs. So any lab work, it is still possible to do some things at home, right? And or with your own partnership. So if you already know, hey, I know this person and they're willing to give me some lab space. The problem is most labs, like I said before, the equipment's expensive, and any projects that are being done is a part of their project. And the goal of this is really to get students to do their own project, have their own idea, not just work on something that's already being done. So that is most of what I had. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I also have two of our mentors here. And I don't know if either of them are willing to give a little bit of information about how, how they interact with the program, what they like about it, any advice that they may have, or things that they see that come up. I'm going to bring in Megan Joyce. Let's see. Hey, Hey, Megan.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. Yeah, I've really loved mentoring for the program. The students that are really passionate and excited about a particular topic. Always, come to each week's mentor meeting with like tons of questions and, oh, I read this, or, oh, I found this. And, that makes it really fun for them. It also makes it really fun for us as mentors. It's great. We try to match mentors with students who have similar interests. Sometimes that doesn't line up perfectly, but that just means we get to explore with the students. So that's always really fun.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's something that people have asked me about in the past as well, is what if you don't find a mentor who does the exact thing? Our mentors are trained to help students with that process. But if we need an expert, it's also really doable for us to research and ask somebody for expert advice. I can think of a great project that was done in Hawaii. The student was from California. They were going to Hawaii on vacation. They had these couple of weeks there to collect data. And you can't just go and like take corals or do things necessarily with corals, but we didn't have anyone who was in Hawaii who could mentor her. But we had somebody with some marine experience helped her find a connection. And then when she went there, she was able to work with that person and she created a quadrat out of PVC pipe and an underwater camera, and then could take pictures of different areas of coral to then analyze what she saw in those pictures. And so that's a great example of how somebody on the ground, right, helped her with a piece of her project, but wasn't her mentor all the way through. Other thoughts, Megan, on getting students started, why they should join the program?
I love it. I think one of the things you said maybe right at the beginning was really helpful. It's for students who are really interested in science research and, pursuing sort of a research track in college and beyond, but it's also for students who maybe aren't sure. I do a lot of alumni talks with my undergrad college, and I just did one 2 weeks ago, and one of the things that a lot of students are really interested in is sort of thinking outside the box in terms of their career path. And so this is like a really interesting way to get started thinking about like what you really like to do early.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Yeah, I think that's any other things that we feel like they should know. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I don't see any. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.